Analysts say Singaporeans are among the top buyers of property in Johor Bahru, which has seen prices jump in the first half of this year. But recently, some Singaporeans have discovered they're not the legal owners of the Malaysian properties they had bought. At least 100 of them are now locked in a legal dispute with a Malaysian developer, alleging it was not upfront about the sales terms and conditions. Property lawyers on both sides are now urging buyers to read the fine print when buying overseas.
So, Daniel, I think these are the kind of news that we don't want to see right now. These are buyers buying in an overseas property, and I think now they are, into a legal lawsuit that what happened like 10 years ago.
So usually you buy property, you want to have a title deed.
Yep.
All right. So you want to own and you're able to sell. That's where you're able to check whether are you the owners of the property. So after I think a few years getting their property, the title deed, they didn't get the title deed.
Yep.
So what they are gotten, I think, is instead of a title deed, they are getting like a lease agreement.
So
which means like they are the tenant. Or the landlord, the master tenant.
Now for more, I'm joined by our reporter, Rebecca Mateo. Rebecca, welcome to the studio. Bring us up to speed. How did this story come about?
So one of the home buyers of the property in Malaysia actually wrote into us, and I picked it up, decided to follow up with him. And I eventually met up with him and another property buyer here in Singapore. They gave me access to documents relevant to the purchase back then. So they included things like WhatsApp group chat, emails, screenshots, as well as court documents. And so I wrote in the help of my colleague, who is a former lawyer, Nasra Rahim, which you might have heard of her over the TV. She helped me analyze the legal documents, and it is now an ongoing lawsuit. So I made a trip down to Johor as well to take a look at the property, and I met up with another buyer there. Let's take a look.
To purchase.
For Singaporean Sebastian Tan, this three-bedder Johor Bahru condominium is meant to be a haven.
So this is more for my family, my grandchildren, as a weekend home. The other property which I bought together with a pool of my friends, that is purely for investment.
He snagged this place for around 275,000 Singapore dollars, a price some would consider a bargain. But recently, while chatting with a lawyer friend, Mr. Tan found out he had bought the unit under what's called a private lease scheme, or PLS. This is unique to some properties in Malaysia. You don't own the property, but instead buy a lease, almost like a rental agreement, for say 99 years. The developer is the actual owner. The people who buy are tenants, must ask permission to sell or rent, and could come with conditions attached. In contrast, Singapore does not have a similar concept. Instead of lease, it is leasehold, or a form of property ownership. Buyers have full rights to rent or sell. Malaysian lawyers say their country's private lease scheme, or PLS, is legal, but confusion can sometimes happen because buyers sign on a standard sales and purchase agreement, or SPA.
SPA means you deserve the ownership, you deserve the strata title, separate from the master title. But whereby in PLS, this lease scheme, all you get is just a longer so-called tenancy. You get a 99 years lease period.
All that means is buyers may not have the same rights as they might for a Singapore property.
They do not have a voting right to choose their community members there. So a future challenge would be, who should be the representative of that particular condominium? Who should decide how the condo should be run? What if the corporation does not run well? You get what I'm saying? If there is any legal dispute over this corporation, the creditors will go after the land of this company, isn't it? Then they'll sell the land, they'll auction the land. Then what happens to the lessees?
A Singaporean lawyer says the value of the property might also be affected.
The calculation for that, you can imagine, is very different. It should actually almost, I would say, be akin to rental. How much are you paying to rent the property for X number of years?
if we talk
Many, like Mr. Tan, who bought the JB property, only realized this difference recently. About 170 buyers, mostly Singaporeans like him, are in a WhatsApp group discussing next steps. Some still wondering what it means to buy a lease for freehold land, or whether they could rent, sell, or refinance their property. So far, since 2022, I understand that at least 80 Singaporean buyers in two groups are taking legal action against the condo developer and an investment firm in the Malaysian courts. The buyers claim the sale conditions were not made clear to them and want the strata title legally changed to give them full ownership. I found out at least 70 condo buyers filed a complaint in June with the Singapore Council of Estate Agencies against the real estate agency that marketed the property to them. The CEA acknowledges receiving this matter, but from court documents I've seen, the developer has argued buyers should have been aware and that the private lease scheme is valid and legitimate. They say the buyers have also passed the legal period to make any claims.
Yeah, so they actually bought a property lease rights. So I think now they are locked into a legal battle.
Yep.
Right. I think because it's not the same as Singapore.
Correct.
Singapore, I think everybody's used to it. So I think Singaporeans use the same mindset to buy properties overseas, which now pose a big danger. Okay, so actually this leasing agreement, I think pose some problems because now the buyers have a problem. In the end, are they able to resell? I think that's the most important thing.
I think that's correct. First of all, is whether you put in the money, then whether are you able to resell. Second, I don't know whether are the banks going to loan you the money, because right now you are not the so-called the registered owner, right?
Yeah, and even if they allow you to transfer, will the banks allow the next buyer to get loans? So I think these are the uncertainty that what the customers and investors have actually been facing. More importantly is if he's able to transfer, still not that bad.
Yeah, you still get back your money.
Right, you still get back your money because you can still resell.
Yeah.
If you can allow you to rent out, still not that bad.
Also,
Right.
over the years, you can recoup whatever you put in.
Yeah. So, but again, I'm not sure about the lease details. If there isn't, if they don't allow you to transfer, they don't allow you to rent, then that becomes a serious big problem. So that's why buying overseas really got to be very careful.
Yeah. So I think more important is also into, as mentioned, is the fine print, because usually when we buy something, even insurance policy, how many times do you read the fine print?
Yeah. Or sometimes as Singaporeans, we read the fine prints, we assume everything is right, then we just sign off as though it's nothing. Do you know that in Singapore, there's also fine prints when you get a bank loan?
I don't know, like what fine print?
When you get a bank loan, the property belongs to the bank. So by right, if you want to sell or you want to rent, you still need the bank's permission. It's all in fine print. But of course, I think most of the time it's okay. But these are the small fine prints that if it's overseas, it's even harder to govern. So guys, when you're looking to buy overseas project, please, do not enter the market unless you're very familiar with the market.
Yeah, also don't because of it's cheap, then your mentality is cheap, then I just buy. I think that is the killer for every investor.
Especially Malaysia, right? People looking at the quantum, maybe they can buy a 200,000, 300,000 Sing dollars and they feel that it's really cheaper in Singapore. But I think it comes with a lot of risk that is unforeseen. Unless you're really staying there for good, for retirement. If not, looking for at an investment point of view, don't go into overseas first. Yeah, there are a lot of risks. There's a legal risk, there's a currency risk, right? There's also a risk that you're not able to liquidate in the country itself. So you got to be careful first.
My advice is, if you are starting, usually a lot of people say Singapore property very expensive. So maybe I buy one, then I buy another overseas. I can get recurrent income. But our philosophy, I think, if you are a married couple, right? So minimally you must have at least own 2 residential property first. That's your basic minimum to even touch into investment like commercial or industrial in Singapore. All right. So after you have owned these 3 asset or classes, then probably you can consider overseas property, because that is your extra money, man.
So what was being said is, one, you must have your own stay in Singapore. Second, also in Singapore as an investment property.
Yeah.
So because sometimes if Singaporeans cannot afford this, I rather they don't buy anything. Really. Or rather they just put a fixed deposit or versus you buy overseas, because you may even lose your capital. You may lose everything.
So you had to buy ringgit was 2.5. Now ringgit is what? 3.5, I think, wow, then you already lose on the currency action. Even you sell at a profit, you probably only break even or lose money.
Yeah, and why we say laws are important is because, when condominium management in Singapore is good, right? But in overseas, sometimes, if you don't have strong laws, if you don't pay up your maintenance fee, nobody manage for you, right? Different from Singapore. If you don't pay your management fee in Singapore, what's going to happen, right? URA can actually seize your property, they can actually do not let you sell your property, or they can even take from the tenant. So these are laws that are important, which is not the same as overseas. Sometimes you may think overseas price is cheap, but is it really cheap or not?
Cheap doesn't mean it's good, bro.
Yeah.
To me, it's cheap doesn't mean it's good, because usually when it's cheap means you really have to study more carefully. Because I also personally bought overseas property, so first thing I went cheap, then gonna burn, because market rental not there. Right. Second is the market cannot absorb the price.
Yeah, then we also seen developers giving a guaranteed rental yield. So what is all this about?
Well, guaranteed rental is definitely no lah. I think long ago Singapore property also give guaranteed rental yield. This one is to basically take your money, I inflate the selling price high, I take the money, then I distribute into next 2 years high guaranteed rental. Actually, you're paying your own rental.
So
but after 2 years, the market cannot pay this kind of rental.
Yeah, so what we've seen is that they guarantee investors 8%, 10% rental yield. They factor into your sales price, after which, maybe 1 year later or even 2 years later, they just close the company and then you don't get your rental already. Right? So that's the risk that actually a lot of investors do not see. Yeah, they only see, giving me 8%, 10% rental yield. So again, these are all risks that, if you're not familiar, please do not enter the zone. So the strategy is to own 2 in Singapore, then maybe explore a bit on the Singapore commercial, industrial before you even look overseas. I think that's always the last, in the list. So I hope this video has been insightful. You can share with your friends who intend to buy overseas property to always look into Singapore property first. Any questions, you can always drop us an email and we'll be glad to help you.
If this video has already helped you in terms of your clarity, whether you're going to investment into any parts of the world, this give you a little bit to be more careful into reading all the fine terms, all these little nitty-gritty things, then probably you can help us like and share to even your friends, so that more people are aware and they won't be caught into the situation when they are stuck at this situation.
Okay, good. Thanks, and we'll see you guys in our next video.
All right, see you guys.
See you guys.